We're learning about hardware. So first step is understanding what's inside of the computer. So we're gonna look inside of a computer, and then that's going to help us to understand what those different components are. I'm showing you with actual desktop components only because they're bigger and it's a little bit easier to see, especially on the screen. So I'm going to show you this desktop that I have here, but all the parts in the desktop are also in our laptops and in our phones, just in smaller formats. When I was in undergrad, my friends in the electrical engineering department, I remember them running up to me so excited about being able to fit more and more data into smaller and smaller parts. And I didn't really get what that was, how important that was at the time. But here's the thing. It used to take a whole room full of a room-sized computer to hold not even as much data as we can now hold on our phones. So with the phone, you can have 32 gigs, 64 gigs, 128 gigs, 256, whatever size your phone happens to be. You can hold all of that data, all of those files on something that fits in your pocket. Whereas back in the day, it used to take a whole room to hold, to fit that much, and still wasn't even that much data available. So all the things that have happened over the last, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years of computing allow us to do what we can do today. So I'm going to do my best to kind of move my computer around so you can see. So this is a working computer. It's a desktop computer. I just took the back cover off of it. And this is what it looks like on the inside. So this is where the hard drive sits. This big board back here, this is the motherboard. Everything plugs into that. Did you guys see the Independence Day movie, the one with Will Smith? So in that movie, there are these alien spaceships, and they're kind of freaked out because they're like sitting over each city's downtown of all the big cities of the world. And then come to find out, there's an even bigger ship way out in outer space, and well, not too far out, like scary close, because it came to attack us. But anyway, so that was called the mothership. So the smaller ships would go inside of the mothership, and anything else will be a spoiler, so I'll stop there. So basically, in the same way, the motherboard of a computer is what all the other components plug into. The power comes from the power source into the motherboard, and then all of the electronics flow through the motherboard. Okay. This is a close-up version of a motherboard. Let me show you this a little closer. All right. So this is a close-up version of an actual motherboard. And I just bought a bunch of these like old parts to be able to show you. So this is a motherboard. On the back of it, you can see there's just really a lot of intricate detail on the back. And basically, electricity flows through this whole thing. And that electricity is photos and files and things that the things that you view on your computer and the software that you use on your computer. So this is a motherboard, and you can see here. So this is the motherboard. This is the back of the motherboard. Same thing on my computer here. Okay, so this again is the motherboard. If I turn it, you can see this is the back where everything gets plugged into. So these things plug into here, the part that we normally see where you plug something into the back. Again, laptop, desktop, same thing, just smaller. And then plugs into here, and then that's how the components start to work. These cables move the data throughout the computer. And all of your devices look like this on the inside, just a smaller form factor if it's, a phone or something else. Okay, so these are all different hardware components, and from all different computers. Like I just got a box full of stuff. Dust is flying. So a bunch of old components from different devices. So this is an example of a card, all right? So again, they've got these circuit boards underneath. They kind of look like little cities. They're really, really very beautiful. And usually most devices have these little gold tips. This is the part that plugs into the motherboard. So you take these and you just slide it into the correct slot, and then that's where it works. And a very kind of similar to how you have a certain power cord and you have different kinds of power cords that power different devices. Some things use the Lightning, some things use the USB-C, micro USB, and you plug the power cord into the right slot and then it powers the device. In a similar way, you plug these components into the motherboard. Now, all motherboards are different. It's because different manufacturers have made them, and they're different sizes and shapes, and they have different capacities. So you can't just grab any card and any motherboard. They're not necessarily going to fit. So you got to make sure that the motherboard kind of drives the whole machine. You have to make sure it fits. As far as a laptop, same concept. You've got a laptop, a motherboard inside of your laptop. Just again, everything is designed to be very flat. But you do have a motherboard there. So again, if you wanted to add a component to your laptop, you have to make sure it's the right one to fit that laptop. And you just do that by researching on the website. So how do we know what kind of card this is? So this has, first of all, it's got a fan on it. Okay. We're going to learn, when we talk about maintaining our devices, we're going to learn about things that can destroy computers. Water, heat, gravity can destroy a device. Dust, like the dust floating now, can destroy a device. Temperature, sometimes magnets and sometimes not magnets. It depends. But magnets destroyed computer devices for so long that now there are some devices that are not sensitive to magnets, but I still don't trust it. So I still say magnets, even though some of the newer tech is okay with magnets. So this has a fan. And actually, if you look through the motherboard, there's some other fans here. And there's also, so fans, obviously, they keep heat away. And also this right here, you can hear it. It's like metal. And this is called, see, it's like these little metal walls here. This is called a heat sink, okay? So heat sink and fans both serve to pull heat off of the components. So by the fan works just like any other fan works, and the heat sink is designed to pull heat onto the surface of this heat sink. The heat sinks into this metal and off of the card where it sits. So this has a fan, so it tells us it's something that has a lot of processing going on, because electricity generates heat, and as electricity, as data is moving through the device, it gets hot. So your phone can usually only overheats if it's like out in the sun, but it can also just get hot just by, because again, there's electricity moving through. So so it's got a fan. That tells us something. There's a lot of processing going on this device. And the real way to figure out what it is to look and see what plugs into it, okay? And this is how we can figure it out. So what kind of device is this based on what plugs into it? So this is a graphics card. It goes by a couple different names. Old graphics card. Old. I don't tear up the new stuff. So you have a box of old things so that we can, play with them and we don't have to worry about gravity. There's one in here with an HDMI port. But and this white one is called a DVI port. It's just another kind of a video port. This one has two VGA ports. These are the old kind of monitor ports that plug into this one. Again, this one has a heat sink because it is older and not as powerful. I went to the Goodwill computer store, and I told them, I was like, I've got these students and I've got these components, and I need to be able to teach them this stuff remotely. So they put this box together for me. But there's a device called a processor. I actually don't have a processor in here. There's a processor. It's like a little square, and it has there's a processor, it's like the brain of the whole computer. Well, sometimes a more powerful graphic card, or GPU, graphics processing unit, actually has its own processor. So underneath this fan, there's actually a processor on this card. So that's how, even though it's still old, that's underneath it. All right, and then these are RAM. So RAM stands for random access memory. All we need to know about RAM at this moment is that RAM is not so much the memory as far as how much data, how many files can you store on your computer at once, but the RAM is the memory that affects how many things your computer can do at once, okay? So this is kind of your active memory. That means if you have a lot of RAM, you can run 3 programs at a time. If you have a little bit of RAM, you can just run 1 program at a time. So RAM, again, not storage space, storage capacity, but the memory that the computer used to work. Whereas the processor, which is the little square, that is kind of the brain of the computer, how fast the computer can think. Right here is the hard drive. And that affects how much the computer can hold, how much storage capacity you have on the computer. So with hard drives, there are actually 2 types of hard drive on the market right now. There's hard drives, HDD, a hard disk drive, and there are solid state drives, SSD. 2 different types, pros and cons, but basically both of them hold files on your computer. And again, there are distinct pros and cons. I didn't show you any pictures of solid state drive. Really, they all say solid state drive on them. They're pretty easy to identify. 2 types, both useful, both important. SSD, solid state drives, are faster, but hard disk drives are usually larger. And that really just has to do with kind of the price point and everything else. That doesn't mean there aren't some solid state drives that are bigger than some hard drives, but it's in the context of a computer, you want to use a solid state drive to run your programs, to save files actively, and then use your hard drive for older storage.
So I want to follow up the walkthrough video by giving you a close-up look for some of the components that I covered there. So first of all, this is a processor. This is usually what it looks like from the top view. This is the bottom view of the processor, and sometimes the pins are actually kind of enclosed, so there can be kind of a flat circuit board panel on top. This is kind of an interior view. So again, a square component, and this again, as we covered, is the kind of the brain of the computer. Also, the next thing, a close-up view of a motherboard. As I mentioned in the first part of the video, they all look different. So this is just another view of another motherboard. You can see the ribbon slots here that you can insert your RAM cards into. You can see the processor here, kind of on the center of the left side of the motherboard, and that's another example of that. Hard drive. The hard drive in its casing looks a bit like this. If you open the casing on the inside, you'll see the spinning platter, and the needle looks kind of like a record player. CD players also look like this on the inside, DVD players. And the needle that moves across reads it in the same way that a record player reads music. I know some of you have the new USB, the new version of an old record player. But yeah, with the USB import, so that way the needle moves across is the same type of technology. On the backside of the hard drive, you'll see something that looks kind of like this. So part of a circuit board here, part of it is where you can see the back of that spinning platter. So this again is another example of a hard drive from a different view. I did not show you in the video a solid state drive. They are still pretty new, and there's not a lot of broken ones out there because they last so very long. So so they haven't yet made it to our hardware collection, but this is one. This is one that you could insert into a computer and connect to a motherboard. This is actually one, the kind that I own. You can toss, don't toss it around, but you could. Apparently it's even, waterproof, and you can drop it up to 3 meters, which is pretty insane. So again, I don't recommend that you test them on this, but they do have very, very durable, casings. Now on the inside, solid state drive looks kind of like this. Really, it's got the same kind of chips that we saw on the different RAM cards, sometimes larger. Um, Here is a helpful view of the comparison of a hard disk drive and a solid state drive. So you can see again kind of the different components of it. Um, the major difference in shock resistance. Again, don't test these numbers. Don't go tossing them around. But the solid state drive, because it doesn't have a platter that spins, there's not as many mechanics. It doesn't have the needle that moves across and can scratch. And then again, you should never ever open a hard drive. It can be damaged very, very easily. Dust, the grease from our fingerprints will damage it very quickly. But they are, enclosed in the casing. They're still a lot more fragile than solid state drive, where the chips are just mounted onto that circuit board. This is just another look at some RAM chips. They all look very different. They're different lengths. Some of them have the black, the black cards on just one side. Some of them have them on both sides. Depends on how much storage, again, this is active in motion storage at any one time, not permanent file storage, but how much RAM is on a card, that depends. And again, the different sizes are designed to fit into certain motherboards. They're not freely interchangeable, but you can update your RAM on most computers will allow you to update RAM. Again, you have to read about the specifications of your computer and see if you're able to do it or not. But it's pretty cool to add RAM to a computer. It's like getting a good dose of caffeine or adrenaline. Lets you work faster and more productively. It's pretty exciting to put a RAM chip into a computer that used to be slow and sluggish and see how quickly it can operate. Last close up that I did not show in this particular video is this one. I'll give you a moment to think about what it is based on the look of it and what plugs into it. And as you may have determined, this goes by a couple different names: an Ethernet card or a network interface card, sometimes called a network card for short, or a NIC card for short. This, as you can guess, is used to plug directly into an Ethernet cable. In many situations, you'll get faster performance on using plugging directly into a router with a cable than you will through wireless Wi-Fi access to a network. I have been to one commercial facility where the wireless access was faster than in any network cable I've seen. That was in the press box of the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. It's the outdoor football stadium in Virginia Beach, not the new indoor stadium. Man, never seen anything that fast. It was so cool. But in general, you generally will get better performance here. Sometimes if I'm in an event, or like I'm traveling and doing an event and I've got thousands of photos to upload and the hotel Wi-Fi starts to slow down, if I can find an active network port, and I usually will carry a network cable in my laptop bag, and then I'm able to get those files uploaded radically faster. Cables are pretty cheap. For most modern laptops, you'll need a dongle, an adapter to plug into it. A lot of those adapters will have the ability to plug a network cable into the same adapter that you may use to get extra USB ports or memory card slots, things like that. All right. So these are the main components I want to show you. There are other components also. So that's why I want you to be prepared for what the visual cues are to help you identify any component. And that's a huge part of what goes into making an informed purchase of technology. So why is this hardware information important and how will it benefit you going forward? So the main answer to those questions is for you to be able to determine which computer is best for your needs and given different situations. So if you are someone who's just using a computer just for basic email and web browsing, if you're using a computer for video production, if this is an office computer that's going to have a lot of different users doing a lot of different things, it's important to understand how these impact you. There are a lot of computer options out there even for any one manufacturer. In this, I've selected one MacBook, Lenovo computer, and one Dell computer. The Lenovo and Dell computers are both Windows computers. Obviously, Mac iOS is the MacBook operating system. So we want to make sure that you have an idea of how your choices will affect the power and everything you'll get from your computer. So you can look at the comparison of the different processors. And if you look here, it'll show you details on them. Sometimes it's a cost decision. Sometimes you're like, I've got this much money to spend. What should I get? And so this is showing you an idea of what the different processor pricing looks like. All of these are important, but I just want to emphasize a couple of things. The RAM, these three computers have three different levels of RAM. And so each one determines how much your computer can do at once. I also want to point out the storage capacity. So I talked in the first part of the video, I talked about comparing solid state drives and hard disk drives. And I mentioned how you can use the OneDrive for certain things. So what I want you to focus on here is that sometimes some computers will have just a solid state drive. Some will have just a hard disk drive. Those are usually a little bit older. Some computers have both. Sometimes you'll get both a solid state drive and a hard disk drive. So what I mentioned at the end of the video is that if you do have both drives, you would usually store your programs on the solid state drive and kind of the files that you're using regularly on the solid state drive, and then you use that hard disk drive for large amounts of storage, but files you're not using continually every single day. So this metric about the total storage capacity, this has to do with how much storage you have on the entire computer. Now, it's important to remember that this is not all available for your files. This total storage capacity includes some space that that the computer uses to run the operating system, usually Mac or Windows for most of you. There's also Linux, is another operating system that some laptops are running. The programs that you install, Microsoft Office or iPhoto, any of those programs that you install, they also take up space. So this isn't everything that you have access to. It's the total capacity of the computer. Other factors, screen resolution, things like that. And as I go down here, you can see, if I go to show more specs, it just tells us everything, all the different factors here. So depending on what you're looking for, if you are interested in a computer to play video games, then the refresh rate is going to be really important to you. If you are doing video production or some kind of high level intense programming programs that you're using, then you're more interested in RAM. And so you would basically want to just kind of evaluate all of these specs and then make your decision going forward. Another thing that I am often interested in, look, anytime I get a computer, I want to know is, do I have the ability to add more RAM, or does it come with enough RAM for my needs, or do I have the ability to add more? And then also, I'm very interested in the connectivity is usually what this section is called. So how many ports I have available to me. So As many of you Mac users know, sometimes you just get those two ports and everything's got to go there. Whereas with the Windows computers, you might get multiple USB ports, headphone jacks, things like that. So these are some of the things that are really important to me. Just I like to know what I can plug in and everything. Most of the computers are going to have a camera available these days, but that's another factor. If you are looking at desktops, of course, that would be something that shows up on the laptop. But most of you would be buying laptops unless you're providing input into your specs for your company. So I just want to show you what this looks like. This is Best Buy. As you can see, there are many sites that will allow you to compare features across multiple computers. I just went to the kind of the full computer listing, picked 3, and then did the compare option so I could see them together. So it's important for you to be able to, to compare them. And then again, sometimes it does come down to cost. As you can see here, pretty clear price difference between these random computers that I picked. But this one also has just only 4 gigs of memory. A very small amount of hard drive space is really more, again, just kind of, I just need this for just basic, web browsing and emails and things like that. Nothing really intensive. Whereas these others start to offer you more levels of power. So, you can't just go by price. You do definitely have to evaluate the specs. And so the what to do with it part of this entire hardware lesson is in understanding the differences between the options on different computers and understanding how to make good decisions about purchasing based on the situation that you're facing.